Good evening, Cryptoverse. Make sure you guys can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. It's going to be a interesting episode. Make sure we're running a small delay on here, so we do have Miss BBT watching the screen tonight to make sure that you guys can ask me questions. We'll have a part where we'll have questions and answers, but I want to make sure that we kind of go through this kind of methodically. This is important stuff tonight. There's some big stuff going on in the crypto sphere in general, and I want to make sure that we can articulate this in the best way possible and make sure that it's brought down to a level that if you're not really familiar with the way everything kind of works, and you're kind of new into the space and you've been doing a lot of research, you're trying to figure out, what's going on with this hard fork, what's this mean to me, why do the exchanges keep asking me to pull my coins off, is there something that's going to go on with the exchanges, what is all that about? So tonight what I'm going to try to do is explain it meticulously, and we'll walk through some examples, and then we'll talk some of the kind of the analysis behind what could happen with BTCC from a financial standpoint. Why are they making this play? What does this all mean? So hopefully, I'm not going to wait for a whole bunch of folks to get in. Well, I'm just going to get into it, and folks can watch kind of the repeat of this. This will be pressed right out to the web right after we're done tonight. So I'm going to get right into it. So if you come in late, you can watch the recast of it. So the first thing that we're going to go through tonight is a technical explanation of what's going on with this hard fork. What does it mean? How does it work? Why would you have to get your coins off the exchange, or why should you, more than why do you have to? You should do. Then we'll go through how BTCC, and Bitcoin, how they'll coexist potentially, go through some scenarios, and I'm going to break down kind of the math behind it, and try to see what their rationale of even attempting this is about. And then some maybe forecast of what I see just looking at the numbers from my perspective. It doesn't mean that it's right. It means that it's just my view of it based on the way I see it from a financial standpoint. And this is just, you could call that portion an opinion piece, where the technical explanation is kind of functionally how it's going to work. And there's not a lot of incorrectness in that. It's just the way it works, and then the stuff that I'm going to talk about when it comes to like the financial impacts and all that kind of stuff is just my analysis on it. So that is can be taken and tore apart, and people can say, well, I think it this way and that. So that really is kind of an opinion piece, but we can talk the BTCC futures and what I'm seeing from there, and then we'll get into kind of question and answer, and that will wrap up this live stream. This is going to be very tactical. So let's get into kind of what the hard fork is and why everybody's telling you to get your coins off the exchange, and what the background of that is. So essentially the hard fork, if this is the BTC main public chain, the coins that you have in BTC, when that hard fork happens, it will absolutely split. And what that means is your public address that you have your Bitcoin in, if you have your Bitcoin not in an exchange and you have an Electrum wallet, or you have a Bitcoin Core wallet, or your Trezor, and you have your own private keys, that essentially is going to get duplicated. And you're going to have BTC and you're going to have BTCC. So your public address will be in both. Your private key will unlock both. That's essentially the hard split. Now, why would we care? That sounds awesome. In first thought, it's like, well, wait a minute, does my money duplicate? Well, and theoretically, the tokens duplicate, and two chains are then from that point carrying them on. Essentially, history will change. Things will happen differently in both chains now because you have essentially two copies. Think of it kind of like you have an Excel file, and now you've shared it with two people, and people can start to change it, right? The items inside of those columns and rows will change, and they will not be succinct and they'll be the same. So essentially on this hard fork, why people are asking you to remove it from an exchange is simple. The exchange, you have just a denomination in an exchange. So there's the blockchain, and if your coins are in the exchange, when this thing splits, that exchange may not support that second chain. So two things are going to happen. One, if they do accept that, and they do at some point want to go ahead and start taking BTCC, they have all the original, they have the original public address and private key for the exchange hot wallet, and essentially they will have all those coins, and they have no, they are not obligated to give you those. So even if you have a number in there, let's say you have 10 Bitcoin in that exchange, essentially it's going to duplicate and give them 10 BTCCC. It's going to give it to them because you do not own the private key to that. The exchange does. Now, some exchanges could say, okay, I'll do you a solid and I'll split it for you, and now you just get both. But it's not necessarily an economical thing for them to do because they got to spend time and money. So then even if they did do that, they would probably still charge you something. You know, it's just a math problem for them to figure out how much or how many people are we going to have to do this for, and how much, you know, are we going to have to make sure that everybody gets their share and all that, because essentially they're just going to have a database of people and their amount of coin, and then they would have to go through and then divide and conquer essentially all that to separate all that for you for a service. So what they're saying is that they don't want to do that, and that's a lot of work, and there's some liability with that too. So what they're saying is go ahead and move your coins out, get them into an Electrum wallet or a Bitcoin Core wallet, somewhere where you gain your coins. Electrum wallet, we put a few links on there in the description. Get your coins out of an exchange, get your address moved over, and all your coins moved over to this. So if you had 2 coins, now you have 2 coins in that public address, that which is your Bitcoin address for your Electrum wallet. Let's say you download Electrum, and then you'll have the associated private key. And then what will end up happening is after that split, when BTCC issues a wallet where you can download the wallet for BTCC chain, you could import that private key and then gain access to that exact 2.0. So you'll have them on both wallets. That's the main piece behind of why everybody and all the feedback that you're seeing about moving your coins to something you control, because you control that private key, which then you can import into a fresh new BTCC wallet. So that's essentially the science behind it, of just there really is no other, it's not any more difficult than that effectively. Is just get it to where you own it and you own that private key, and then you can import that private key into that new wallet and then have access to your coins. So that's the breakdown on that. And now what I'm going to get into is why the BTCC essentially is just an alt currency with an interesting set of circumstances, because like most alt currencies, when they first start, they start in a few different ways. They can start as a fresh, just a genesis block is created, and if you're a proof of work algorithm, you just start mining it, and then the inflationary piece is done over time, and there isn't a lot in there. Then you get some alt currencies that have pre-mines, where they have actually done it in a kind of a closed network, haven't exposed it to where other people can mine it, or if it's a proof of stake coin, they've done essentially they've ran a series of mining that allows it to get some kind of quantity of coin, and then they can issue that out and to an exchange where you could buy, kind of like an ICO, and it's all pre-mined. Essentially, BTCC is a 16.4 million coin pre-mine, because it's an exact duplication of current state of Bitcoin. So there's 16.4 million coins out there now in existence. and you have potentially millions of people that have it. So it's an instant way to have an auto distribution to potentially millions of people that already have Bitcoin and they already have a stake in it. So that's probably part of their rationale, is that it's an easy, we have all this, we don't have to have all this buy-in because we already have all these people that have our currency. All they have to do is just download our wallet and import their private key, and now magically they have BTCC. It's an instant way to have that many people. The problem is, there's a couple problems, but
okay. Before you move on, Bitcoin is the only coin that is being affected in this fork.
Yes, Bitcoin is the only one that's affected.
So all of your other coins do not need to be pulled out?
No, all your other coins are good. Ethereum, Litecoin, all the other ones that are on all the other exchanges, don't move them. They're fine. This is only Bitcoin.
And which exchanges are affected? They're asking about Exodus and all these other places. Is there anywhere where Bitcoin is safe?
Well, Bitcoin's safe everywhere. Bitcoin's safe on all the exchanges.
I mean, will you get the split if you're in any of those other exchanges?
Unless they have told you that they're going to, you can assume that you're not going to. Do not assume that you're going to get a split if they haven't said anything such as that they were asking you to withdraw them. The exchanges that have the critical mass and have the backup with regards to support, and I know Coinbase has had kind of a questionable support lately. They've had a lot of people join them, so I know that they're probably under a lot of pressure from amount of people that are on there. But they've put out, they're operating as a real enterprise company, to where they've issued a statement of factual what they're going to do. They're saying you are more than welcome to move your coins out of our exchange because we are not going to support at this time BTCC. I think Bitrex is the same way. There's a few other coins that are the same way, or some other exchanges. If you have yours in an exchange and they have not put out a what they're going to do, I would lean on the side of caution and I would move it out anyways, because you ultimately control your private key. If you move your coins out to an Electrum wallet or any other local wallet that you have, the big piece is that when you move those out and you now move it into a wallet, like a Bitcoin Core wallet is like a full client. So that means it's got to sync, and it's going to take a while for it to sync. I would say go with a lighter wallet, something like Armory or Electrum, and then you'll get a fresh new address, which then you have the private key to. And then from your exchange, you move it into that new address that you just got with your Electrum wallet. And then your coins will show up there. And then effectively after the split, and you see the kind of, I would say, the internet all clear from Twitter, from us, from people that are saying, okay, it's cool to move, the exchanges open the floodgates back in to let people pull coins back in. Then from that point, you can download a BTCC enabled wallet that's pointed to that chain, which would more than likely be the same thing like Electrum, in that it's just going to point to what network it's pointing to. And then you can import that private key into that, and then you'll have your dual coins essentially. So I would say err on the side of caution if it's in an exchange. This is kind of like if you have more than a couple $100 in there, it is worth your time to do this, because effectively it really comes down to the speculation: is this going to be worth money? And right now the futures price on it is $387, and this, you guys probably can't see that. I'm using this orange.
No, the orange is fine.
Okay. So that price, that futures...
Handwriting is not fine, but...
Yeah, my writing's horrible. So that futures price is $387. Now, we're kind of jumping into where I was going to go with a scenario and what I think is going to happen to that futures price. And I think it's going to get crushed initially, because essentially what they're banking on with having that distribution of people...
Before you move on too much, we had a super chat. Exodus, do you know for sure about Exodus and
Exodus exchange?
Yes.
Or what?
Will they be giving?
I haven't heard anything from them, so I'd err on the side of caution to move your coins out.
Okay.
Unless you've seen an exchange that says we are going to support both chains and we are going to take your account and essentially add in the like amount of currency that you have at that snapshot. It's pretty finite, guys. The second that thing forks, whatever you have in your wallet at that point in time is now duplicated in both chains. That's the science behind it. The second that happens, all the transactions at that point, minus some kind of replay attacks or anything else that could happen in that little window right there, that there's some issue. By and large, if you had two, you're going to have two there. So that's if you own your coin. If it's on an exchange, unless they've said that, all the exchange would do is they would attach to both chains and they would look up an account ID and then they would do that service for you. I cannot imagine them doing that for free for you, because that's time and effort and audibility and security and all kinds of things that they have to do to validate who's this user ID, what did they have in there, and can we move it to that other account and credit it. Essentially, they're doing this kind of activity every day whenever they're doing an ICO and supporting it, because essentially you send money to an ICO and then they go and credit your second instance there, which let's say if this was an ICO, name it whatever, and you sent Ethereum, they have that transaction ID and then they credit your account once that ICO goes live, and now you have 500 of those coins when you send over one of the Ethereum, right? They do that kind of activity on a regular, but this is a unique set of circumstances because then they have to go and connect to it. They got to see, is it going to be viable? Do they want to maintain that chain? And we're going to get into the scenarios of what could happen, potentially what could happen with BTCC, of having that immediate critical mass. That's why this is kind of a little different than, even though people are like, it's just, like another coin, it's going to be an altcoin, it just happens to be on the BTC, a split from the BTC, it's not that big of a deal, whatever. Yet it's going to have an immediate critical mass because now you already have all the people that have Bitcoin addresses essentially are going to have this. And you get very positive economical potential effects from that, but you could also have just this immediate crash. And if there's not acceptance in it, essentially it's just whatever futures price this is, there's a volume associated to that, right? So that future price only has so much volume holding at that price of 387 up. And potentially you're going to have some percentage of people that are going to be like, don't support it, don't care, thanks for the free money. And whatever exchange is accepting that, they're going to drive that price down, because they're just going to sell their coins for what it is and auto-magically have whatever their amount of BTC that they have the same amount of BTCC, and then they just dump their coin because they're just like, I don't want to deal with it, I don't believe in it, whatever. And you have that downward pressure. Now it all comes down to, is there going to be upward pressure from people that do believe in it and say, you know what price is low enough for me to buy in at? And that's going to be really that establishment of that equilibrium of that potential. The sales and marketing side of BTCC is going to say what they're going to provide that is different than BTC. And can they both coexist? Absolutely. There's 500 plus altcoins, of which probably 30 of them have very strong use cases and have a place in the world and are doing things that are moving things along, and that a lot of companies are looking and investing and spending time and money into. So can something like a BTCC coexist? Absolutely. But most of those coins that come in with some kind of coexistence start on the bottom and have to work their way up to prove themselves and go through stuff, to where this has an instantly, with you like it or not, it's happening, right? You are not making a decision here. This happens, and now you have this new coin that's out there that you indirectly, if you have Bitcoin and you have your private keys, you have now. So it's a different model, kind of like what they would call, I believe they had one that was called, the concept of that's called an airdrop. It's like you didn't have it, now you have it. It got airdropped onto you. I think Aurora coin was an old alt currencies, and I'll let the chat see if keep me correct on that. But Aurora Coin did that for maybe it was Iceland. I think it was Iceland, and essentially said if you're an Icelandic citizen, I think it's Iceland, and they essentially gave everybody a stake. Essentially, just if you were there and you had an address, you had a coin, and they dropped it on everybody and said, because we can have that immediate critical mass of people, if we are on the globe, forgive my horrible whatever, Europe, whatever. It's a quick globe. If I can have an immediate, an entire country with all their coins, and that'll jumpstart the ecosystem because now already has a staked interest in it. And I think what ended up happening is it kind of started up here and then just tanked, because everybody's like, hey, free money, and just sold it because there wasn't a lot of interest in the beginning to do that. This is a little different with BTCC because it has far more distribution. It is global in distribution. And there is, large mining facilities that are staking their interest on it. When you look at the separation of mining power, which kind of goes something like this with Bitcoin. If you look at the Bitcoin charts, and you have something like 20% for Ant Pool, you have BTC Top, I think has like 13%, and then you have another BTC Com is like 13% or 9% ish or whatever, and then you have ViaBTC, which is 4.5% of this staking that they are going to move over and support it. That's a lot of mining power to uphold that network. And this is kind of getting into now the scenarios that I'm talking about of why they would want to put all that mining hardware and a lot of sunk cost and power into upholding a network that they don't know if it's going to uphold this price. I think it comes down to a math problem that they're trying to figure out, because at the end of the day, they're not in this for their health. They're in this to make some kind of revenue. This is not just like a goodwill app for them. They are in this to try to make money and try to expand their interest, and they're making a big bet on it by associating a lot of hash power to it.
Ledger Nano S, is that a safe place to have your?
Absolutely, it's like one of the safest. So one of the hardware wallets are very safe, and that you have your private key. So any of the Trezor, the Nano S,
it will get the split.
You'll have access to your private keys. Anybody that has access to your private keys, if you have access to your private key and you have Bitcoin in there, you get the split. Because what ends up happening is you have your private key and you just import that. Once the split happens, you'll get the other wallet and you'll import that private key into the new address or into the new wallet, and then essentially it reestablishes your account on that chain because you had it on that chain. That's how that works. So if we start getting into kind of what's the rationale, what's the scenario that at play here, and why would they do something like that? So let's just do some basic math here on their amount of hash power that they have on the Bitcoin network. And let's say they're the only ones really splitting off, and it was 5%, 8% of the network, whatever they have. I think they have like 5.5%, 4.5%, somewhere around there. So right now, Bitcoin outputs 12.5 BTC plus fees every roughly 10 minutes. So that's the infusion in the network. 12.5 coins plus fees. Fees right now, I was looking at some fees in the last like 4 or 5 blocks before this episode just to see where we were at. And fees ranged from 1.3 BTC to 0.3 BTC. So essentially 13.8 BTC in 10 minutes is what they generate. Now, if they own, let's say between them and I think BTCC pool, let's just say both of them go over and they take the 10% of the hash power with them. So you look at their what are they earning, let's say every hour on the current Bitcoin network, if they earned one of the blocks an hour, if they average between the two of them, they average one block an hour that they won every time, right? So you're talking, so like 43 or 4,800 bucks at a $2,700 Bitcoin price. You know, they're 10% of this, roughly 3.8 coins. It'll be about 10K. Let's just call it 10K. Is what they're averaging every hour. Right now, if they kept their hash power on Bitcoin, they owned collectively 10% of it. And mathematically, they earn about that. And mind you, I know somebody's going to be out there just crunching numbers and like, I think it's like 8.9. I don't care. We're going to go with $10,000 an hour roughly is what, based on the output of the Bitcoin network right now, based on their hash power, based on a $2,700 price. If they go and stand up now BTCC with a futures price of $387, and let's say now they're going to be pretty much all the hash power. And so unless other people go to it real quick, they are going to pretty much be earning every block 12.5 times the 6 times the 387. I already kind of pre-did the math here. People can check me. But this times this is like 48.37, and this times that is $29,025 if the price held 387. So that's probably the first basic math that they're doing. We're going to split this, and we're going to get 3 times as much more money per hour than we currently do if the price held. And that's with no competition, essentially. If they're these huge mining entities going over there, they're going to go to almost 100% of the network. And essentially every new block minted after that fork, they're going to be winning block, winning block, winning block, winning block. Right? So essentially $29,000, $30,000 basically an hour on that. Now, if a whole bunch of other people move over, that'll change. But they're hoping for that price to go up then, and they come out better no matter what, right? So that's from the miners' side. They're not doing it for their health, guys. We're a mining group, right? We're mining from a GPU standpoint, and it's not just about holding up the network. Like we believe the BTC or the BBT group, I mean, we believe in the technology. That's why I got into it a long time ago. I believe in the change of what it's going to provide, and essentially we're doing our part and stand up a network. But we can't do it for free. So part of that's also looking at what's the most valuable coin, what can we do in that. So from a miner perspective, from a trying to get money standpoint and stay viable and keep your operations going and switch your hardware out in a cycle and all that kind of stuff, they're doing the math there, and they're figuring out a solution that they think that they can make more money on, obviously, and then hope that they can grow that network and that ecosystem. But what some basic forecasting is showing is that with that critical mass of people, and the one use case that did an airdrop that I know from looking at that happened, is by and large, the amount of people sold it. It's just the economic behaviors of the way people are with stuff. Is a lot of people had a lot of hope that the fork was avoided and the price went up. And then somebody says, hey, I'm going to fork it anyways. And hey, you're going to get something for it. It's a good thing. However, a lot of people are like, yeah, it's a good thing, to the point of which exchange is going to hold it. Because then I can go sell it and I can at least get something for the trouble you've caused me. Right? That kind of thing. So you're going to have a group of folks that are definitely going to do that. You have a group of folks that are just going to hold. That are just like, I don't care. They can squabble over whatever. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to hold both. And then we can revisit this in 10 years and we'll go long on it. Right? You're going to have those group of folks too. Right? And they don't care if it gets down to 50 cents. You know, hell, they may buy it at 50 cents. Right? And say, nah, it looks like a huge distribution like that. I'm going to get in at that price. Again, there's going to be an equilibrium that occurs from the current futures price of 387 to 0 somewhere in there, like all alt currencies, look at the 500 plus that are on CoinCap. There's some level of value in each one of them. There's a order book on some exchange somewhere that has an order book that there's people transacting it. So this, like any other currency, is going to have an order book, and there's going to be people dealing in it and speculating and all that, irregardless of its use case. Because, you know, by and large, we all know Bitcoin's main core use case not only is just a function of transfer value from person to person, being a trustless system to where you don't have to have a central authority, it's became that digital gold kind of concept. Bitcoin Cash right now, short of any other features that they're trying to work out, is essentially that same kind of use case. And it's kind of the same thing with Litecoin too, right? Litecoin's just on a faster network. And I look at Litecoin like in development, where if Bitcoin's a waterfall development group where everything is super looked at, big punch list of stuff, and then you go and do one big BIP and it has a lot of drama behind it. And then you have something like a Litecoin network, somebody that's kind of doing an agile iterative development, just banging it through, and then it's getting the releases, it's getting updates and stuff like that a lot faster, a lot more incremental. It's a lot more agile of a process, and there's a lot less, I don't want to say to lose, because a lot of folks have a lot of staked interest in Litecoin, but it's a lot more agile of a coin to be able to implement those features. So again, back to this. Prediction, forecast, mathematics, airdrop concept of what's going to happen with it. I could be completely wrong, and there could be a lot of staked interest that's kind of like in the background that nobody knows about that's going to invest heavy into this. However, the basic science behind it from an airdrop and looking at the previous use case, a lot of folks sold. So I'm just saying, if you're going out there and you're doing your futures contract stuff, you may be in a whole different level of game when it comes to predictive forecasting than maybe somebody like myself. But being around the crypto and then seeing the actual the cause and effect that's been out there from things, just I'm telling you guys to be careful with that. You know, don't do more than you can definitely willing to lose on that forecast. So this is some basic math behind it. We'll see if other mining groups move over to it just after it. But right now, I don't know of any major exchanges that said that they would support it. I think it's kind of they're gonna wait and see what happens. They're gonna see the you know, at the end of the day, with that many people that are going to indirectly have that coin, there could be a huge interest quickly, especially if price starts to spike. And exchanges are going to go with the community in the long run. If there's a huge staked interest, they'll start falling like dominoes and they'll add it. I mean, it's just the way the math works, right? So it's a big bet at a very confusing cost for the community to do this hard fork. And we'll see how the community responds to it. But I'm hoping that this at least gave some kind of insight. I'm going to get into questions and answer, but I wanted to make sure that people understood why people are telling you to move it off exchanges and stuff. So let's take some question and answer, and then
some of the questions from the beginning. Someone was saying you should just sell all of your BTC now before the split. Why or why not?
I would not do that. I am not doing that. I don't see a rationale of divesting BTC. This is an event that could have always happened. That's part of the whole. This is part of the. It's like sometimes democracy is not pretty. Sometimes consensus isn't pretty. And if there's a split in consensus, then a fork happens, and it comes down to, we've seen, just like we've seen an airdrop coin situation, we've also seen a split situation in a large currency. We've seen it with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. If it ends up taking kind of an approach where BTC is an 80 percentile of it, and this ends up getting a 20, I think that's a high estimation. I can see it being more of like a 95.5 kind of thing. Because if this thing happens here where the airdrop goes crazy and it gets sold, then this is just going to fall into another alt currency world that is every time it starts to rise, more people will sell, because as much as there's an equilibrium on a buy price, there's also an equilibrium on a sell price most of the time. And we see that with the tops and the bottoms of coins, right? So what's going to happen is you're going to have a price point where people are going to be like, nope, too low and I'm in. And then you're going to have a price point that's so high, which is probably going to be super predicated by these guys, the miners, and going, yeah, that looks like a good point to get out and take some profit and pay for this power that we're using and pay for the new hardware that's coming out from whoever, if it's Bitmain or somebody else. You know, they're going to have a strategy on a sell and a buy order, right? And then I think you're going to just have a lot more rationale on the sell side than you're going to have on the buy side for BTCC, because BTC is super established. It is the gold standard, and somebody just splitting the coin is not going to steal that. No way. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make economic sense. It doesn't make psychology sense. It doesn't make any kind of sense in any way that the community is just now going to switch over to something when it's forced, when it's a driven, nobody asked for it, but because of the way consensus works, they can do it. So I think just the basic psychology of they're going to be going against it, unless their feature sets and exposure and a way that they do the way they don't have so much drama maybe in their code releases and all that kind of stuff, and that it becomes more of the community's coin. But that's a trust earned type of thing. Trust is earned, right? And nobody really knows what the intentions is. There's a few interviews that have went out from some of the lead developers and stuff, and out of the gate it's very prescriptive and very elusive, right? So prescriptive on some of the answers and elusive when certain questions are asked. And there was a group that was very prescriptive and elusive before on an exchange, and I think it was called BTCE, and I don't think that they're going to be around much longer. So prescriptive and descriptive, or prescriptive, answers to very, very tactically answered, and very elusive on like who's partnering with you and who's doing all that stuff. Hey, this is a transparent world. This is becoming a more transparent world. So, if you're going to split one of the major currencies like that, then you should come full open on like, here's the intention, here's the strategy, here's why we think it's better. So I think just on that premise that people are kind of seeing through it. We'll still monitor it. We'll still, this is way out of our normal scope because I'm usually more of a, into GPU mining and stuff. But I think that this kind of discussion is needed. And when I'm not seeing it out there on the web, present it in the way that I'm trying to present it right now, it felt like there was a void that needed to be filled. And I hope that you guys will be the most honest audience out there and saying, hey, give up that on the day job, bro, and go back to mining. If this is good and you want more of it, then we can, as this starts to unfold, we can have some analysis with it too. But again, all we can do is observe and report, and that's kind of what I've done right here, is just looking at the math behind it, looking at the futures, looking at how the tech is going with it, and then giving it to you like this. So we'll take a few more questions.
Opposite of the question we just asked, instead of selling your BTC, is it a good time to buy into Bitcoin to take advantage of this fork? Would it be a profitable venture, or could it be?
So, I would look at, like any other analysis right now, I would look at where's Bitcoin been I was actually thinking the second that when this fork came out, I was thinking it's going to hit its last bottom, it's going to go back down to 1,800. It was proven wrong. It went down to about 1,400, and now it's creeped back up to 2,600. I think it's going to be a flat situation for at least through the fork, through the technical stuff, for all kinds of reasons. Mind you, think about it this way. There's a lot of people that have moved their coins out of their exchange. there's not going to be a lot of activity on at least the trading activity, and the trades should actually reflect that over the next probably week and a half. There's not going to be a lot of activity out there unless people are just giving up the fact that they could get BTCC, right? So, or playing with exchanges money, that type of stuff, and like some kind of margin trading. There's a lot of activity that should slow down, and then right after it, provided everything goes well, then being bullish about Bitcoin, I would say yes, because now we're through a hard fork, we're through the drama. We know the next stop is in November when SegWit 2 and that next piece comes online. And now you have a chance to have some runway and know that it's not going to be, hopefully pitchforked, where you have just another group saying, hey, we don't agree with either of you two, and now we want to do it again. That kind of activity is always, the worrisome piece. And, that's part of the risk, too, of saying that if this takes off very well, and this ends up turning into like a 60-40 split of price and volume, who's to say that there wouldn't be another one, right? Somebody else coming in saying, well, we'll just do it a third time. And I think that would be disastrous. So anybody that's even thinking about it that has enough power and control to switch enough mining power, I would highly advise against that. And I would say watch and see what happens with BTCC before you try anything crazy. But, I would say post the hard fork, then being very bullish with it. Absolutely. I mean, you've seen a lot of the price targets like everybody else has said. When I say everybody else, I'm talking JP Morgan Chase. I'm talking about the people that actually do this for a living and do predictive forecasting with all kinds of very high dollar models of putting price targets at 3,500 and plus. So I would yield to their expertise, because it's more than just trying to move a market in some kind of shadowy way. They're actually putting a lot of math behind it. They have APIs that connect to every exchange out there. They see the order books, they see all the in and outs, and they can do a lot more predictive modeling than just my paying attention and acute awareness of just specifics in the industry. They would have a much better articulation of the when to actually be bearish on it. What else do we got? We'll wrap it up here.
Everybody's liking that you're being honest and sharing all this information.
Well, a lot of people won't do it on a live stream. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of live streams. I've seen a lot of videos of people come in with opinion pieces, and here's what I'm trying to say, just from a technical aspect, is one, make sure you guys, have your coins off the exchange. That way you can get the opportunity on both. And then, if you have questions, what I'd say is we'll wrap it up here if there's no other questions, and you guys can put a lot of questions in the description below. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you like this kind of stuff, I mean, I can start splitting it. We have a couple things coming up just after this weekend and just after this weekend. We did get some more stuff that's more around our channel. So we got a nice fresh. Micro Center won't sell me anything anymore, so I had to go direct. So I got some 1060s. I'm going to do a 13 card build with that. So we're going to do a 13 card with the new ASRock board that actually ASRock sent us. So this is going to be more of kind of a deeper dive review of that. And this is more of I wouldn't call it a low cost build, but I'm saying if you're going to fit 13 in a rig, that would be the kind of card setup that you'd want to put in there. So we will get back into the mining from a GPU standpoint in another episode. But if you guys like this, be sure to like, subscribe. We're going to put this out and I'll try to do a write-up on Steemit. So please go out there on the Steemit post and, give us some comments out there too, if you like this kind of stuff. And
did you meet Flaxus out at the store today?
I did meet a subscriber out at I did make a stop at Micro Center today. And I did meet a fellow subscriber.
Super chat.
Ah, nice. Yeah, I did meet Flaxes out there at the store. So I told him that I'd be doing this tonight. So I'm glad that he joined. So yeah, you guys stay tuned, and we'll have another one out there if we get a chance. We'll put a schedule out there of when these next few live streams are, and you know, keep being awesome like you guys are. Don't freak out. You know, post some questions on there, and we'll see if we can get them answered for you guys.
Keep talking in Discord. Everybody's there to help.
Yep, and then keep asking in Discord. Go out to bitsbetrippin.com, and we'll get some questions answered out there.